Okay. So first of all, who are you?
I am Allie Asher, and I am a youth services specialist at the Greenville County Library, and I work with children ages 0 to 12, but mostly ages 3 to 0.
All right. So we're kind of going to talk about your history with books in your life. So, do you remember learning how to read?
I do. I had a device that is kind of like the Vox books and Wonder books of today, but it was called the Talk to Me player. And so you would set this little reader onto the book itself, and it would read out loud to you, and you could just follow along with the words. And I know a lot of little people probably spend more time just looking at the pictures, but I do remember looking at the words when it was reading it out loud to me. So once I had all of those books memorized, I told my mom that I could read, and she thought that that's what I meant, that I had the books memorized. But she gave me a newspaper, and I started reading, at least, the recognizable, reasonable words for a 4-year-old to be able to read. But yeah, I was reading.
Do you remember what the first book you read by yourself is?
No, I don't.
Is there one that stands out that you remember reading at that age?
I really loved the book, Richard Scarry's best storybook ever. Mm-hmm. And there was a book about a mouse preparing dinner for a hippo, and it was kind of an alphabet story where it would bring an apple and a banana, and and I remember spending time looking at those pictures and reading those words, but I don't know if it was the first book.
All right. I know you've told me before you wanted to be a storytime librarian as a child. Do you remember how old you were when you had that thought?
Well, I would have been 5, because in kindergarten they had reading groups for children as they were learning to read, mm-hmm. and I was already reading on my own, and my fluency was high enough that I didn't need to be in any of the reading groups. So one other student was reading that as well, and so we would just go to the library during reading group time. Okay. So we were kind of on our own, got to go down the hall to the library, and if another class was in the library, then I would just get to be a part of their story time. And yeah, I remember thinking I want to read every book in this room. I want to read them out loud. I want to just live in the world of stories. So yeah, I loved that whole idea. I liked being read out loud too, but I was expected to be reading on my own also. But but I loved that room. I only have vague pictures of it in my head because we moved when I was 7. But yeah, I remember she had a rocking chair.
And was that at school?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember your mom taking you guys to the public library?
I do, once we moved.
Okay.
So after I was 8, around that. So I don't remember the public library in Michigan. I'm sure that we went because my mother is a library person, but I only remember my school library from Michigan.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. Do you have a book that you think has been influential on your life?
I was a strong person of faith for a lot of my life, and I read the book by Corrie ten Boom, The Hiding Place. Okay. And in that book, she and her sister, as Dutch citizens who had been hiding Jewish citizens and getting ration cards, so they were, feeding people who were on the Nazis, list of people who were no longer eligible for food rations and all the things. They were involved in a network of helping Jewish people in many ways, but they also were hiding people. So they were brought to a concentration camp and imprisoned there, and the barracks where they were sleeping, all of the mattresses were full of fleas.
Ew.
And so the women, were piled in, not enough space for anyone. But the fleas there kept the guards from coming in.
Okay.
And so while they were there and trapped and expecting to die there, and expecting especially that the Jewish women they were with would die, they were able to pray. They were able to give comfort. They were able to do more for the people there and for each other there, because the guards would not come in because of the fleas. And the way that they talked about it is they said, you need to thank God for the fleas.
Yes.
And so Corey's sister was saying this to her, and Corey was like, I can't thank God for fleas. All of this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
We're in a concentration camp. We are going to be executed. This is the worst thing. We are basically living in hell. How do you want me to thank God for this? And her sister was just adamant, you need to thank God for these fleas. So that story stuck with me, like, just that we don't always know. We can't always see the silver lining. We can't always see the benefit or the blessing of a moment that we might share with a person. A throwaway conversation might be super meaningful to somebody else. And, I may not always see the good part of, being vulnerable with somebody, or being sad with someone, or hearing terrible news, or even the terrible things happening, but it could be the catalyst for something else that's great that's going to happen.
That's true.
People suffering now might lead them to think a little harder about the way that they vote, or think a little harder about the way that they treat their neighbors who may or may not have been born in this country. That sort of thing. I can't always see the good of something when something feels awful to me. But there can be benefits. So I feel like that story in that book is sticking with me no matter what.
Yeah, obviously, because you can remember so many details about it.
Yes.
It has been something that's made you remember, like, I gotta try to find the silver linings and things. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have a favorite book?
This is extremely difficult to say. Probably not. I'm a little bit of a mood reader, and sometimes those moods last a long time. So, like, I'm currently in a happily ever after and found family mood.
Yeah.
I've been through times where I would read more of, like, the suspense and those kind of things that get popular, but that's not what I'm doing now. I'm reading a little bit more people finding community and companionship and love. So that's probably me reacting to the state of the world, feeling uncertain and scary and wrong.
Yeah, you're using fiction as more of an escape currently.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily that there's just like one favorite book, but a favorite feeling, and that usually is the feeling of someone found community and love when they didn't have that before.
Okay. So since I know you, I already know that Frederick Backman is your favorite author.
Yes.
Why is that? He
has a way of putting the human condition and the anxieties and the fears and the vulnerabilities and the awe and the wonder. He has a way of putting all of that into words that I haven't seen in the thousands of books that I've read. And he's writing in a foreign language. So this is like the English translation of what he is expressing in Swedish. But like I say, I just don't feel like there's any other author who is writing people the way that they really are.
Yeah.
The neurotic, fearful, touch-starved and love-starved way that many people go through this life. And then he also has characters who are just, walking through the world as if none of that is going to ever bring them down. So you have the little sunshine people, and we know these people too. So I, of course, relate to the anxious people he always has as characters because he suffers from anxiety himself. But I also am a person who looks for a sunshine person to be around a lot of times. So I just love the way he talks about people.
Yeah. Is the character from the Beartown a sunshiny?
No, the character I love best is Benji Ovick in Beartown, and he is one of those love-starved, traumatized, hurting characters. He's closeted, so no one knows that he, is an athlete in a homophobic culture, and that he's not able to be real with his best friend. And over the course of the trilogy, he does make connections with people, both as friends and family. He grows closer to his sisters and begins to let people know him. So he's able to be loved in multiple ways before the trilogy ends. But yeah, I love a broken person who becomes more whole over the course of a book or trilogy.
Were those your first books by Frederick Backman?
No, my first was A Man Called Ove.
Okay.
And it starts out seemingly like a tragic book because this is an elderly man who is a widower, and he wants to end his life so he can be with his wife again.
Okay.
And then in comes the sunshine person who just disrupts all of it. And by the end, he has this wonderful found family. And
it's kind of all the aspects you said that you like.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So, in fact, that book sent me on like a micro-genre hunt for books about an elderly person, usually grumpy person, typically, who is isolated and then is brought back into community. And it's usually by somebody who doesn't give them any choice about it. That somebody just barges into their life and forces them to be back in community with others, and I love it. Of course, I read there's a series about a woman named Vera Wong, and she herself is the grumpy older person who barges into other people's lives. So she forces them to be in community with her, which is hilarious, but similar into my little niche genre. But yeah, I didn't know that that's what I was looking for in books. And it definitely is.
But it found you.
Absolutely. It's a found family of books.
All right, my last question. What's your favorite part about working at the library?
The babies, for sure. I get to work with babies and their parents. Parent education is something that I have done for many years. And I love having that moment where I can tell the parent, you're doing a great job, and here are some things that you can do to keep things going well, that you're your child's first teacher. And, so I love being around the babies for sure, and they just bring me so much joy. But the opportunity also to just tell their parents, like, hey, this job is really hard. You're doing a great job because you got out of the house and you got to the library, and you're making choices that are for your child's benefit, and here's a way to keep that up and to give your child the best of what you can. So I love that part, and I also love the people that I work with.
Yay! All right, thank you so much for your time.